Welcome, wrestling fans, to the Big Schmoz. I'm Scotty Bender alongside superstar Rob Schulz, sporting his Baltimore Orioles jersey.
That's
and also
right.
with the big guy, and we are here on the Big Schmoz. And wow, again, NXT this week AEW beating NXT in the ratings by a substantial margin. They've been consistently beating NXT, and how important, we're in the Wednesday night war zone. How important are the ratings? I mean, I know people look at them. I mean, I personally think they matter, quite honestly.
Yeah.
I do. I think they matter.
Does it have the same impact it did as before? I'm not sure. I haven't really heard people talk about ratings too much outside of sports in a long time. I guess you do hear the wrestling ratings were down for Raw and stuff like that, and it would kind of be, a reflection of the product. But I don't know how they compete head to head. Like, is Tide with Bleach Alternative really looking at AEW over WWE? I don't know. I don't know how it works nowadays. And
what was interesting this week too is that NXT had sort of a takeover lineup. I mean, they kind of brought some big guns in. I mean, Cole and Velveteen Dream. That's a main event anywhere, and they got knocked out. As far as the ratings. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I know that. To be very transparent here, I watch AEW. I really didn't watch much of NXT. I'm full transparency here.
Sure.
I wouldn't say I'm hooked on AEW, but I find the product more interesting. And when I'm watching it, I don't know if the venue this week, I just liked how they were outdoors and even though they have some of the fans at rings, not fans, but they have some of the workers at ringside. I kind of enjoy that. I kind of enjoy some of the banter back and forth, the background noise, where with NXT, you don't see it that much. And I don't know, Big Guy, what do you think?
Well, I think the ratings do matter.
Yeah.
Mainly because AEW is beating NXT, and I don't think anyone would have expected that. The WWE juggernaut as it is. But I agree with you that AEW, with their so-called fans, has more of a feel to it than WWE in the Performance Center. Just feels very static. I mean, every week they add more lights and lasers, and they try to dress it up as much as they can, but it's still kind of an empty experience, unless Asuka's out there. That's different.
I'm not big numbers guy, but I know that the lead going in for AEW was, the main event was Jericho and Sammy Guevara and Omega and Hardy, and what was it? I'm looking here. It was 837,000 to 572,000 for the Cole Velveteen Dream match. That's a big deal. I mean, if you would have said that to me, I would have thought it would have been a lot closer. I'm not saying that NXT would have beat AEW, but I would have thought the margin would have been a little closer, and it's kind of a blowout to me. So
that's really bad news if you're WWE. Put on,
right, because Adam Cole is your guy.
It's not even. It's a title match, but it's also a match they've built up over the last 3 or 4 weeks. That should have been something that everyone was dying to see, and instead, fans tuned out for it. Yeah,
and also the Jericho Sammy match with Hardy and Omega. I'm not saying that didn't even really have storylines. You got the Hardy storyline going against the Inner Circle. Omega was kind of thrown in the mix, to add to that match, and that still outdid Velveteen Dream and Adam Cole, who, like you just said, had an angle building for a few weeks, a big lead up. So. I actually enjoyed the AEW main event. To have Hardy on the golf cart, and I don't know. It's clicking for me.
Let's take a look at some of the highlights of that.
Yeah,
placed perfectly, gingerly, tenderly on that table. There's Matthew.
Omega holding Guevara's boots. Matt Hardy off the ladder, just flattens him. 1, 2.
That's it.
No.
Where the hell's Jericho?
Oh, wow.
Kenny Omega.
This is great right here.
Look at this.
Oh, the power bomb.
That's good stuff.
Into that steel.
Sammy's running like a starving dog.
Oh my
God.
Oh my
I
God.
know, that was pretty. I mean,
Did he
that
get
was
free
pretty
shot.
intense.
Sammy got clipped.
Run over by the cart a couple of times, and with the
And
help of
AEW was
Santana
live this
Ortiz,
week, right?
The inner circle walks away with a win.
And then they ended up on the field.
Yeah, so this was big for AEW because they had so many guys back in the fold that have been out of action. SCU came back, Bender.
Yeah, SCU. You
love SCU.
Yeah, Jon Moxley against the charismatic Frankie Kazarian. Quite honestly, wasn't a bad match. It was good to see Mox, back. I'm sure that definitely helped the ratings. He's been off TV as far as wrestling for the last few weeks. He did the promo last week, but to see him back in action, with a big win. And then the fallout after the match. This is what we've been waiting for. Fans, Dark Order, the Exalted One, Mr. Brodie Lee, with his minions attacking Jon Moxley, laying out a challenge. I think we're probably going to, see, was that Double or Nothing? Is it the big pay-per-view coming up? He made the challenge.
Yep.
This is what we've been waiting for. We want to see Brodie in a high-profile match, and looks like we're going to get one.
Jon Moxley is no Marco Stunt.
No.
Yes.
No.
So we shall see how that goes. Very good.
Yeah, it was good. I just thought AEW was a solid show. I'm not a fan of Nyla Rose. I think she, fans. I'm just not a fan of Nyla Rose. But anyways, that's a whole different.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But overall, again, that main event. What was great about the main event was again, going back to Big Guy's comment, when you're at the Performance Center, I noticed that there's no fans. It's a distraction for me. But during that match, I was totally vested in the match, and it didn't matter. There was no fans. I just really enjoyed the match, and I think that's what did it for me. And I wasn't watching going, oh, there's no fans, there's no crowd noise. I was looking at it. It's like, wow, this is a pretty good match. It was exciting. And they laid it on the line. So kudos to AEW.
What didn't work for me in that match was Matt Hardy's gimmick.
Yeah.
So he went through 3 costume changes with the thought that each time he changed costume, he was in a different version of the Matt Hardy, odyssey he's been through in his wrestling career. Yeah. Except he had the same hair and the same movesets, and the announcers were half-heartedly trying to acknowledge, oh, it's Damascus. Or, oh, it's the Matt Hardy from 20 years ago. But it just didn't work.
Jim Ross didn't have any clue. Anyways.
No.
Yeah. I personally just wish he would just, sorry, Rob. I wish he would just be Matt Hardy and just drop that whole thing and just be Matt Hardy, trying to get his career back on track. He left the WWE, and I just wish he would just kind of go through a little different evolution. But we'll see.
It didn't really fit with the match either. Being such a realistic brawl, and then you got a guy who disappears in an icebox for 20 minutes so he can change into an outfit.
Oh, that's great. That would have been great if Jericho was on commentary for that match. If he wasn't in the match, that would have been fantastic. He would have been fantastic. Killer Cross. I mean, he also made his debut on NXT. That didn't even really help the ratings. I thought he was seeing him more, see where his character goes, and to see who he feuds with. But he made the big debut with Scarlett this week.
Gotta say, a very impressive entrance.
Yes.
The music, the black and white, the smoke, the way it changed to color when the music picked up. It was pretty impressive.
Yes, I would agree. So, again, NXT didn't drop the ball on what they put out there this week. I mean, it wasn't a bad show. It's just that AEW was just besting them. I didn't look at the NXT show and go, oh, that was garbage show. They put out a crappy show. Right. I think they put a solid show out. Like you said, we said earlier, I mean, that was a takeover type lineup, but
and that's kind of been the problem, right? NXT has generally done quality shows every week. AEW had a period of time where I thought their shows weren't very good, but they still beat NXT. Mm-hmm. So what's it going to take if
I don't know.
Better quality doesn't win?
Fans.
No, I was thinking the same thing.
Did you say McMahon's?
I said more fans.
Oh.
They need to get Herb Abrams involved. No.
Yes.
Bring Bruiser Brodie back. But anyways, so I think it goes down to storylines. I don't think you can put all the good wrestling out there you want. And I enjoy good wrestling, but I think right now AEW's got them on the storylines. I think some of the characters in AEW are just shining. I mean, they're doing more promos. I mean, MJF was there this week. I think he did a great job. I was like seeing. I was torn on MJF when he first started, but I'm a big fan of the character he brings to the table, and so he was there. And again, you're right. I don't know what they're going to do if they, I mean, I don't know how much you can, keep stuff in the ballot box and thinking you're going to win.
Is there too much Sean Spears or not enough? I can't decide.
You know what? I'm indifferent. Yeah, he's fine. I mean, it's funny. It's fine. I'm not bothered by it, or I'm not against it or for it. It works. I'm glad they have. I'm glad that they have some credibility of wrestlers out there. It's not just Pineapple Pete and his crew out there all the time. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Sean Spears.
Well, you mentioned Pineapple Pete. He will be wrestling Jericho next week.
I hate that guy.
That was announced during Dynamite.
I hate that guy. There's that Pineapple Pete. I hate that guy. Yeah. So more to come. Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. Welcome back to the Big Smosh fans. Scotty Bender, Superstar Rob Schulz, the big guys.
Yes.
CoronaSLAM, guys. CoronaSLAM. Boston cancels all large events to Labor Day. SummerSlam scheduled for August 23rd.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
What does it mean? What in the
Sounds
world
like it's not
is
happening.
going on? Somebody call 911.
Where the hell's the doctor?
Where the hell's the doctor?
Are they going to move to Tempe?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking that's when, SummerSlam was the big reemergence for WWE. That was their coming back out party, with all the quarantine and everything going on. And now that has thrown the kibosh on it.
Mm.
Not good.
When WrestleMania was essentially canceled, all the talk was SummerSlam was going to be the new home of the Hall of Fame, and they were going to do.
Yep, I was going to say they moved it. Yep.
The fan access and all the things they didn't get a chance to do at WrestleMania. It doesn't look good now. Looks like we're back to the Performance Center. Maybe they'll add some smoke machines to the set.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with Boston. I mean, it just doesn't. I know this is a wrestling show, but that just affects so much. I mean, baseball, it's just unbelievable.
Right.
I mean, football can be affected. I mean, it's no joke. I don't know. Yeah. So what's going to be the next? I mean, what would be the next live event?
Rumble,
right? Royal Rumble.
So the Rumble, which is rumored they were going to do it in Seattle. Seattle's been hit pretty hard. So I don't know. There's WrestleMania is going to be in Hollywood. They've already been promoting it.
Mm-hmm.
Will fans be okay by that?
I think they're eventually going to have to do something with the fans. If that means bringing a limited amount of people in, and with more testing hopefully going on again. I'm not on the coronavirus task force that Donald Trump assembled. However, I know that there's more things that need to be done, but I don't see how this is. Again, I'm not a coronavirus expert. I just know that something's got to be done. It just cannot continue on like this. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I'm hoping, I'd even be happy seeing some fans, even if they can't do a full house, bring some people back in the stands. I really think wrestling's just been affected by the crowd. I do. I'm not saying I'm getting used to this, but it's definitely been experienced. I'm always going to look back on this period of time and It's just been a strange time overall, but especially for wrestling. Again, I'm not saying all sports don't need fans, but wrestling especially. I truly believe it.
Can't they bring in like families of wrestlers and just you're like, this isn't Tamina's brother, it's just a fan. Like, can't they do that? Maybe even have bodies there and cheering is something. I mean, with AEW, we've seen that those guys are wrestlers too, and Mookie's there on the sidelines, and he's not a fan. He works for them, so I don't know what's the difference. I guess my line of thinking is if Jey Uso isn't sick, then also isn't his family not sick, so they should be okay to go to the show?
Well, okay, so now you're getting into a different issue. Daniel Bryan, when he wrestles, he waits 14 days before he goes home because he doesn't want to spread the coronavirus.
That I did not know. Okay.
So bringing the family in is probably the last thing. I mean, it's the big reason Roman Reigns isn't around is he doesn't want to spread it to his kids and whatnot.
Sure.
Which I don't blame him. I mean, I just got to, I don't know if you guys have caught any of the Korean baseball that's been on ESPN with no fans.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's a picture. Is it great?
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's awesome. You don't like it?
No, it's just weird without the fans. I think that I'd watch some baseball in the beginning just because I love baseball, but I think after a while I might get a little bored of it. And just, the winning home run and just the crowd. I don't know.
Well, you used to live in Florida. You went to some Tampa games, right?
Well, there you go.
Should be.
Good point, big guy. Good.
All right, so let's take a look at Herb Abrams.
Dark Side of the Ring this week.
What he was going through. The night that I guess he passed away, he was partying, drinking. He had a couple of escorts up there with him. And I heard that he had done so much cocaine that he was whacked. And he found a baseball bat and started tearing up the room that he was in and just went absolutely berserk.
I heard that he was covered in either oil or Vaseline and cocaine. It's crazy. And he was chasing around hookers with this baseball bat.
Somebody told me that escorts tried to rob him too, and that's why he grabbed the bat. That's a sight to see, I'm sure. Sight to see. And I go, what is going on? And he says exactly what it says in the tabloids.
That David Manning
was running around naked, smashing a baseball bat on the walls and in the office, chasing a couple
he
of
made me
hookers
sad.
With coke all over his body.
Yeah.
Oil all
He misses her very much.
I guess somebody called the police. I heard somebody called the police on him. There's rumors like he got sodomized by police with their paws. I mean, I heard that. I'm going, what the hell? I guess one of the girls ran out of the office and shut the door behind him, and I think he ran into it. And I think that's how he passed away.
When the police showed up, I heard he had massive coronary and died.
And what I'm told is that he took his clothes off in the jail and he had a seizure and they killed him. Nobody knew if he was robbed. Nobody knew if he got beat up with a baseball bat. So there was all kinds of stories going around at the time, and nobody knew the true story. Still, we don't know because I wasn't there. So, you never believe everything you hear. Chasing hookers around.
It's going to make Sunny Beach a big star.
All greased up and died in the back of a police car. The one thing I know is that Herb Abrams left this world doing what he loved. Cocaine and hookers.
I didn't expect Blair to say that. I thought he would say promoting wrestling at the end, and he said cocaine and hookers, and I got an audible chuckle out of me while I was watching. Very good stuff.
Herb Abrams actually reminded me of a former local promoter here in the area, just without the cocaine, hookers, and the money.
Yeah, that's actually been mentioned by a few people on social media.
We'll protect the
The comparison is out there if you want to search. Shout out to A. Mullen.
That's the first thing I thought about. Funny. Just a tragedy. I remember watching UWF on Sports Channel back in the day. I remember I was really excited about it because, again, back then there wasn't the internet. There wasn't, local indie shows bringing, old timers in. And, you didn't have access to matches on YouTube and stuff. So to see some of the stars he brought in, like, Bob Orton, Don Morocco, Sid Vicious, see these guys, Snuka and stuff, to come back in, and after they've been in the WWF and then they're gone and they come back, I'm like, oh wow, this is great. I enjoyed it. At the time. I mean, looking back on it, was crappy wrestling. However, when I was watching him, as a teenager back then, I wasn't really critiquing wrestling like I do now. I just enjoyed it. I mean, think about all the old wrestling I watched was probably crappy wrestling. I mean, I used to think Bob Backlund was fantastic, but now going back and watching Bob Backlund, his matches were terrible.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, seriously, I remember watching Bob Backlund as a kid. And I'm like, oh my God, he's the greatest technical wrestler around. And then now looking back on it, and it's just like, ooh. But just a tragedy. I think the guy had a good heart. I think he was trying to do the right thing, and unfortunately, he got mixed up in the rackets, and that was down to where his downfall.
I can't remember who said it, but they mentioned how he was just, a wrestling fan who wanted so bad to be a part of the business. And I don't know why wrestling does it to people, but pretty much everybody that gets into this business in one form or another was a wrestling fan at some point. Like, we don't do that with other sports. You guys love baseball. You're not out there coaching teams, but it's just very strange the way it works.
The three of us sitting here. I mean, I was a huge wrestling fan, and
and that was fun. And then I got to be in the ring and wrestle. And then we had Super Beast was a fan where I used to wrestle, and then he became a wrestler too. It's just strange. It just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And I don't know if that cycle will ever stop. Well, maybe this Corona thing has put a little lid on it, but man, as long as there's shows, there will be fans that want to be wrestlers as well.
I always joke around with you, Rob. I mean, back when New Millennium Wrestling here in Rochester, you remember, you were there, Brodie Lee at ringside, with Colin Delaney and the crew,
Mm-hmm.
So it's just funny how things, just like you said, domino effect, and gets passed on. So Dark Side of the Ring, they're just doing a great job. I always want to shout out to the folks producing the shows. I was really looking forward to this week's episode, and I wasn't disappointed. It's just good to hear some of the commentary. But that Herb Abrams, I'll tell you, he was one crazy individual. I loved when, I forget who said it, but he was in one of the arenas, and he said he was all wired up on coke, and he's like, "Let's hear it for all the Jews out there."
Yeah.
Foley was really good in this episode too. Oh, here's next week. Road Warriors. Here we go.
No nonsense, badasses. It's like nothing else like it in the wrestling business. The face paint.
Prediction: will they or will they not talk about Hawk pushing draws off the top of Titantron?
He lives hard. But when you're doing
the coke, come up, right?
When you're doing the muscle relaxation, your heart can't take that all the time.
I'm looking forward to it again. Warriors are always one of my favorites. I remember from Georgia Championship Wrestling seeing them for the first time, and I was hooked ever since. So talk about that next week. Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Speaking of things to possibly look forward to, Money in the Bank this weekend.
Oh, we got to climb the corporate ladder.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's what they keep saying over and over. Why are the matches going out at the same time? Can someone explain that to me, please?
Yeah,
sure.
So what about AJ Styles?
He's back from the dead.
I know.
It's not a ghost.
This week on Raw.
Yeah.
The
Surprise.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's going to win it.
He is?
I think so. That's my prediction.
What about Otis?
No.
Can't climb the ladder.
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm just gonna say it here. I think it's gonna be AJ Styles. I think after the whole Undertaker thing, as good as it was, burying him alive, and now with OC gone, I think they're gonna start to elevate AJ Styles again a little bit, and I think here it starts with the Money in the Bank victory.
Big Guy, can you remind us of the participants in the match?
Sure. AJ,
okay.
Rey Mysterio, Daniel Bryan, Baron Corbin, Aleister Black, and Otis.
See, I think AJ Styles, by winning the Money in the Bank, he can be the most creative and using that leverage moving forward. Daniel Bryan, I'm not saying the rest of them cannot, but I think AJ Styles he's poised to do this. And and tease, who am I going to go after? And I think that holds well. And as far as someone holding it, because you want someone interesting, and I think he can do it now that he's on his own.
My prediction is Aleister Black, just because he's been getting the push ever since he debuted. I think they have big plans for him, and someone with the briefcase who can cash in at any moment. I think that fits his just showing up, kind of, rising.
He can rise up with the briefcase.
Yeah. Schulz gets it.
I understand. Yeah, that's good.
I would be okay with that.
What about the women's match?
Okay, so we've got Lacey Evans, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, Asuka.
Asuka.
Not Mandy. Carmella? Yeah, Carmella's in it.
Yep.
And Dana Brooke.
I did not mention Dana Brooke. Oh.
Either did the booking team.
Hey-oh. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Is Baszler going to win this again and have a second crack at Bex?
I'm going to say Lacey Evans.
Oh. Yeah, that could happen.
That's just, I don't know. I think I can see Lacey Evans coming,
So not Dana Brooke.
No. And not Otis.
What are you going to say when it comes down to Otis and Aleister Black climbing that ladder together? And it could happen. It could be Otis or Dana Brooke climbing against Asuka. Why can't Asuka win? That would be wonderful.
I actually think that both of these matches, again, it's unfortunate they're not going to be in front of fans, but I think outside of maybe a wrestler or two in each match, I think it's a good lineup. I do. You got the Melons, you got Styles, Bryan, Rey Mysterio, Corbin, even though he's a pain in the ass, he's, Aleister Black, and then the women's Nia Jax, Baszler. I think they can be pretty entertaining. So I think the matches can be good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, are the other matches going to be on the roof as well?
No. So the other matches will all be from the Performance Center.
Oh.
Headlined by your two title matches, Bray Wyatt versus Braun Strowman and Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. I don't see the titles changing hands in either case. Do you?
I don't either. No, I don't.
What if Unbeatable Fiend shows up where he can get hit in the head with sledgehammers and he's okay a few minutes later?
Well, he's fighting unbeatable Braun Strowman, so what if Bray ends up outside the ring and Braun does this and then he starts running real fast? Do you think that might happen?
The Fiend might disappear, though. These are things we have to think about.
Oh, and speaking of anything can happen, there's another title on the line. Bayley defends against Tamina.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. I want Tamina to win real bad.
You do?
Yeah, well, Bayley's had it for too long. And Tamina offers a different set of opponents and matches that we haven't seen before. And I know you think that Tamina stinks, but it'll be something new to see.
I can buy into that.
So you think that the key to WWE getting back on top is to have Tamina wrestle more often and against more opponents?
Well, I don't think that Bayley being the champ is the key to getting back on top. And as we saw this week, ratings were down.
What the WWE needs to do is, I'm going to reference an old Seinfeld episode where George said the opposite is the right thing to do. So anything that they think is right, they should do the opposite, because we know look what happened to George Costanza. So maybe that is the key for them, to do what they think is right, but to do the opposite.
Hire this man.
Yes.
So you're also saying Tamina should win?
Yeah.
I don't think she should win. I do think out of all the matches, if there's going to be a title change, I think it's going to be in that match. That's what I'm going to say.
Wow.
I don't think the main event, the heavyweights or anything is going to change. We also got the New Day against Forgotten Sons.
And two other tag teams.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry.
Miz and Morrison, as well as the Lucha House Party.
Lucha House Party, that's right. I was talking about both the Money in the Bank matches, but I think top to bottom, it's a pretty good pay-per-view. I'm going to go on record. I mean, I've been kind of harsh, kind of critical of some of the pay-per-views they've put together lately, but I think this has got some solid matches, and I definitely will be tuning in to watch. The Strowman and Wyatt's got me intrigued because I want to see I'm more interested in how that's all going to be played out. I just want to see how they're going to position this match because, again, I think Strowman will hang on to the title, but it's not just this match. What's going to happen moving forward after this match is just going to set something up for down the road for Wyatt and Strowman. Is Wyatt going to do something that's going to affect Strowman in the long run? Something psychological. I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. So I'll be watching. I'll have my popcorn.
I want John Cena to reemerge during that match. We haven't seen him since his match with Wyatt, right? He could come back then. You never know.
If that's not a cue to go to break, I don't know what is.
Oh.
We'll be back.
We'll be back, fans.
Oh my gosh.
Fans, we are back here on the Big Schmaz, and Big Guy, it is time for the most requested segment in wrestling podcast history. That's time for Schulzie Explains it.
Man.
And Big Guy, why don't you tell the superstar what he needs to explain?
Oh my gosh.
This week, superstar Rob Schulz will explain to us the formation of the Latino World Order.
Ooh. I don't know this. Okay, I know that Eddie Guerrero was I wasn't watching then. I did have an LWO shirt. I do have an LWO shirt. I don't know when it happened exactly. I can tell you that Eddie Guerrero was the leader or extremely high up. I know Chavo was in there, Ciclope, El Dandy, Silver King, Viano 4, Viano 5. I think those guys were all members there. Maybe Halloween, was he a member of the LWO? Again, I don't know how it happened, when it happened, but it was around the same time as the NWO, of course, and I don't have much more information on it. I'm sorry, I do not.
Hooty-hoo! Hooty-hoo!
Was Ray in there?
You're up.
Oh, I didn't know he was in there.
So this week we're going to stray away from any COVID-19 issues I may have with people out there in the free world. So this week's hot button is more of not a plea, but more of a request, advice to AEW when it comes to their commentary team. So you look at the WWE and the crew that they trot out there for SmackDown, Raw. I got to be honest with you. I don't have a lot of respect. I don't think it's terrible. I mean, Brian Saxton and Jerry the King Lawler are just out of place. They're just terrible. And then I've never liked Michael Cole, and Corey Graves just tries too hard to be a heel, in my opinion. But I think where AEW, this week, we had Jericho a few weeks with Tony Schiavone, which I absolutely loved. And then this week we went back to the Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, Excalibur commentary. This is where I think AEW can really differ themselves when it comes to commentary by getting rid of Jim Ross. I think Jim Ross, unfortunately, I remember when Jim Ross first, I heard Jim Ross back in the day when, in Nitro or WCW. And I have the utmost respect for Jim Ross. I think was a fantastic commentator. I mean, back in the day with him and Lawler, as much as I get on Lawler these days, they did a fantastic job in the heyday when they were together. But I think the sport has just outgrown Jim Ross, and he's just, again, we've had these discussions. I think, and I forget what match it was. Oh, the Joey Janela Cody Rhodes match. He said on 2 different occasions during the same match that Joey Janela is tough as a $2 steak. Now, if I have to hear, you got to keep repeating your stuff during the match, and just being a being a commentator, I pick up on that kind of stuff. I think we're AEW, and I think in all of wrestling, what we're missing is a heel commentator in the vein of Bobby Heenan, the Jesse Venturas of the world, where you have that heel commentator who is a heel commentator, but also adds comedic relief. And I think we experienced that, and we were treated to that recently with Chris Jericho and Tony Schiavone. Jericho played a heel commentator, but he added some lighthearted commentary, like Heenan. As much as Heenan was a heel commentator, probably one of the greatest of all time, he added some comedic relief, and he was funny with Gorilla and just some of the things he would say. He knew how to play off the other people involved. The commentary with AEW, I don't think it's awful, but I think this is really where they need to come in and try to find a Jericho to separate themselves from the rest of the commentary world. Excalibur's okay. He's a straight guy. He does his moves. He knows all the moves. He knows everything that's called right. I'm a fan of Schiavone. I like Schiavone, but I wish they could find that middle piece, like a Jericho, someone they can put in full time, and have Jim Ross just step away gracefully and find a spot behind the scenes doing his interviews with the wrestlers and his insight, things of that nature. So it's not really a rant or a hot button. It's just something I've been thinking about and I observed this past week. And it got me thinking about the old days with the Bobby Heenan and how, even Jesse Ventura and Gorilla was good. Ventura did a good job. They were heels, but Corey Graves tries to be heel, but he's too just not disgruntled, but he's just too heelish. He's just like, where again, Heenan is just, I appreciated looking back on how great he was. And I wish they could find someone, because that would really set AEW apart when it comes to commentary. So that's what I have to say this week on the hot button.
Nice. Which isn't a hot button, just a comment.
Yeah, it was more of a commentary. So it was more of a hot button, not a hot button, but it was just I wanted to say that
hot button light.
Yes, because I didn't really want to go and shit all over Jim Ross and be like, because I do respect the guy, but I just when during the Cody match, it was the first match of the night. He's like, he kept saying, "Oh, Joey Janela, he's as tough as a $2 steak." I mean, okay, we get it. Come up with something else.
Yeah,
it's awful.
Is it possible?
And he just lost. He's lost. And
Jericho goes back on commentary, but he wasn't this week because of his match.
Right, because they had the three.
Well,
of them
actually,
back this week.
I think Taz is the guy who was missing, because I think if Taz was there, you wouldn't have had Schiavone.
Right.
And how much worse is that? Because now JR and Taz are both kind of out of it.
Right. And Schiavone just wasn't the same this week. I think he worked better with Jericho. It's funny, Tony Schiavone works better with people tooling on him and like kind of playing and making fun of him. I think Schiavone actually, when Jericho was kind of taking shots at him, like a Heenan would to a Monsoon, Schiavone was rolling off with it well. This week, Schiavone just didn't. He seemed lost. He was trying to be that straight commentator again, and I don't think he was having as much fun, and it wasn't flowing as much. You got these three guys who are all trying to be serious, and it's just not working. And I'm going to say, I'm going to bring up Ivan.
Go ahead.
What I was going to say is, one of the things that made things between me and Ivan so special, Ivan the Impaler, rest in peace, was that I was the straight guy. I tried to be the straight guy, calling the moves and calling the action. But Ivan gave me that comic relief, and we played off of it very well. Ivan would sometimes come off as a heel commentator, but not as a heel, just hating on the wrestlers and putting them down. He had a way of adding humor and comedic relief to a match, subtly and funny, but still getting the point across. And that's what Jericho did. And that's why I think I appreciated it so much, because I had the pleasure of working with someone with Ivan the Impaler, who was able to do that and do it very well.
quick Ivan story. You, Ivan, and Mick Foley doing commentary. This will be a Bender Explains It. What happened when Mick Foley shot down one of Ivan's ideas?
Ivan went heel on him.
Big time.
Went total heel on him in commentary. Like, heel. Awful. I remember that story that they told at the wake when Ivan went after that guy for putting a cup on his car. He went ballistic. If Ivan could have fought Mick Foley, then he could have. So
and he never forgot it.
The comment, big guy, and I don't remember the comment, but I remember. So any fans
Ivan,
of Ballpark Brawl?
Yeah,
ahead,
he tried to do his War of 1812 comment about he hasn't seen this much Canadian carnage since the War of 1812.
Yeah,
and Mick Foley corrected him on a historical fact, prompting Ivan to go full heel.
Just went heel commentary on Mick Foley during the Ballpark Brawl match. And I remember during that match, I couldn't get a word in edgewise because Mick Foley basically come in and just took over. So I just kind of sat back and really didn't really say too much. And it was really just Mick and Ivan just kind of going at it. And Ivan just taking subtle shots at Mick Foley on commentary. So, yeah, that's right. I remember that. Oh, my God. Good memory, big guy. Yeah.
And he proceeded to shoot on Mick Foley for the next 10 years. Never let it go.
The Big Schmoz podcast.
I never held grudges. That was a good thing.
Yeah. Okay.
He's still up. Yeah. So, anyways, at least there's a funny comment this time, not a sad ending. So,
yeah.
Oh, God. Good stuff. I'll be watching.
I can tell you, AEW has Jericho versus Pineapple Pete.
Hate that guy.
And you know something? As much as that is going to seem like a squash, it's actually going to be a good match. It's going to be something that's going to be funny. Jericho's going to. Yeah, this is right in his wheelhouse.
He's going to be ragging on him the whole match, right? Like yelling out loud. He has to be. Yeah, you think you can do that to me, Pineapple Pete? How do you like this, Pineapple Pete? You dummy.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
That's going to be good.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Until then. So fans, until next week, for the big guy, for the superstar Rob Schulz, I'm Scotty Bender. We'll see you next week right here on the Big Smash.